different.
Class is the greatest. That's where real expansion of your mind and talents can be found. Turn on. Tune out of the rat race and its square problems. And tune in on real self-knowledge and creative power.
Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, the Jedi Brandon Kenobi, and today we're going to be talking about Disney Star Wars AHSOKA, Episode 3, with number 3 being titled Time to Fly. And the episode begins with a quick recap of what happened last episode. And one thing I did notice when the episode begins is the music they use for the soundtrack for the recap. You know, I'm a sucker for a good theme song, and I have to admit, the one they played during this recap was absolutely amazing. Hey, it's not John Williams, but it was pretty good. At least in my opinion. And they start the episode off with Sabine training with her robot friend, and he's talking a whole lot of gibberish. The voice almost reminds me of a young Tommy Pickles from Rugrats. And to be fair, I'm sure he was just speaking a different language, but it still didn't sound that good. And I know these characters can speak to robots and Wookiees and all the other aliens in this universe, but I can't. So how about the next time you're introducing us to a new language, you give us some subtitles? Especially if you're going to have the character talking like a baby. Gaga gookie, gaga gookie. But anyways, this scene that you're looking at here is supposed to mimic Luke Skywalker's training with Obi-Wan Kenobi. And this is supposed to make you feel the same thing you felt when you watched Luke Skywalker for the first time. And did I feel the same thing I felt when I watched Luke Skywalker for the first time? Not really. And I have 2 reasons why. 1, she was training with the stick, and 2, the music was completely off. It didn't feel like Star Wars at all. And that leads us into our next moment of this episode. Sabine attempting to use the Force? What? So at this point in the episode, they're implying that she would learn to teach herself how to use the Force? Yes, learn to teach herself how to use the Force. I figured if I said it twice, it would sound nice. But it still doesn't make any sense to me. If anybody can be a Jedi, then why isn't everybody a Jedi? Or Sith, or a Force user, or a Dark Jedi? If anybody can tap into their Force powers, then the Jedi would have never sought out certain individuals. They would have just knocked on their neighbor's door. But the end result for this scene, it's just not entertaining. It's honestly just here to show us she has no Force powers. At least not until the show requires it to have it. Anger and frustration are good to give power, but unbalance you. These are lessons that you would give to a Jedi in their first day in school. But that's what AHSOKA said. But anyways, the next scene begins with Mon Mothma and the Council. And Hera's trying to explain to them the situation. But for some apparent reason, they don't believe her. They have chosen her to be their general, but then they don't trust her judgment? That doesn't even make any sense. I mean, soon as she brings up Thrawn, they automatically decide not to help her. For some strange reason, the Council's downplaying this whole situation. And at this moment, I know we're all waiting for Hera to show some kind of evidence or any kind of video recording, but she doesn't. But instead, with no evidence at all, she decides to call out Council Member Hamato and implying that he's working with the enemy. Yeah, you're definitely not going to get any help now. So after that little fiasco, she gets denied. But she walks out of that room just like a rebel, which brings us to our next scene. What the hell is this? Jason Syndulla? And I guess I'm supposed to be okay with this because he looked like this in the cartoon? Garbage. If I was going to create a character like this, I would have just went all out. He would have had special abilities. I would have had him shifting back and forth between Twi'lek and human. I mean, if you're going to make him look like Beast Boy, he should at least have his shape-shifting abilities. But let's get back to this episode. So AHSOKA's having a conversation with Huyang, and she says something to him that I just don't understand. I'm not training Sabine to be a Jedi. I'm training her to be herself. What? But she's already been herself in every episode. So while AHSOKA and Sabine are on the move after Morgan the Witch, they get a call from Hera, and she's informing them that the Council Committee won't allow her to send any help because they don't want any further conflict. But at this point, it's already too late because they've reached Morgan the Witch. And immediately, Shin Hati and Maruk are on the move. On the move to blow that ass up. Sabine is shooting back, but none of her shots are hitting. To be honest, the ships aren't even shaking when they're taking these shots. What the heck is going on here? Everybody's laughing and smiling like they're driving to the grocery store. No sense of danger, no stakes. Is this moment even supposed to be taken seriously? But while this is still going on, Morgan the Witch is still at her hyperspace ring giving Merrick orders. And the one thing I noticed about him was yakety yak. He don't talk back, but he did say something, "As you wish." I can't hear that line without thinking about Princess Bride these days. And Ahsoka's the greatest pilot that I've ever seen, dodging every shot, every beam, and every laser. Until they do get shot, now the ship doesn't want to move anymore. Now the ship's just floating in space with no cannons and no hyperdrive, which leaves Ahsoka with no other choice but to go outside the ship and protect it with their lightsabers? And at this point, I really feel like I'm watching the Rebels cartoon. Because even though this scene may look kinda cool, it's actually really stupid, and it doesn't make any sense at all. You can clearly see that they hit the ship, but the ship didn't blow up. And now instead of shooting the ship, they're gonna shoot at our lightsabers? Making a cool scene shouldn't always trump making a scene make sense. Because that didn't make sense at all. And hey, I can admit two things at once. Did it look kinda cool because we've never seen anybody outside in space in a spacesuit in Star Wars like this? Yes. But did it make any sense? No. And at this point, this turns right into Avatar Way of the Water. These giant space whales come out of nowhere, and I guess they give them enough cover to escape the clutches of Shin Hati? Because right in the very next scene, she tells us that she's lost them. But I don't know how that can be because she watched them go straight down to the planet. I can only assume that she's not using the Force. Or she just randomly turned off her tracking system. But anyways, Ahsoka and Sabine and Hu Yang are now hiding out and trying to plan their next move. And this episode definitely has things happening, but there was nothing in this episode that moved the plot at all, which I gotta say is just unfortunate. And the last scene we get is of Baylan Skoll on the same exact planet as Ahsoka and Sabine, and he sends out the orders to hunt them down immediately. And I just gotta say, Baylan Skoll is by far the coolest character in this series. So that's three things I liked about this episode: the graphics, the music, and Baylan Skoll. And that's all I got for Ahsoka Episode 3. If you like the review and the information, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time with more movie news reviews.
Turn out of the rat race and its square problems, and tune in on real self-knowledge and creative power.